my name is Dave Nesberg, and I am here to welcome you to The Well for tonight. I'm excited to have you here. It has been really fun for me to get to know you, whether it's through the stories on Saturday morning or whether it's through interactions that we've had in our neighborhoods. It's been awesome, but it's also been pretty cool in a sunny day like this to get to know the campus a little bit. I'm right out here in front of the pond by Kirchhoff, down beyond that, the clock tower, and then the Cook DeWitt Center, which is where our offices are. And I want to encourage you and I want to invite you to come and visit us there. We love when you show up, when you come. We can have conversation, we can have some coffee. It would be great to have you there. Now this evening, what we're going to do now is we're going to go a little further down the campus and we're going to listen to Scott Stark as he brings a message that I think will be transformational for all of us. Let's go.
Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the sun sets free, oh, is free. Free at last, he has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the sun sets free, oh, is free. We're going to take a minute just to reflect on those words. I know for some of us it can be hard to believe that these are things that God actually says that are true about us. But I just want to say to you tonight that you are worth much to the Lord. He loves you. You're chosen. You're not forsaken by Him. He hasn't forgotten about you. So we're going to sing these things again, and we're not going to sing them just to sing. We're going to sing them so that we actually believe them deep in our bones. Sometimes I think that's what repeating these words can do to us. So we're going to sing that one more time. Sing this over yourself tonight. I am chosen. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am.
Hi everybody, my name is Zachary Myers. I'm a senior here at Grand Valley, studying Natural Resources Management. In the summer of 2019, I came out of sophomore year with this idea that I was going to be a catalyst for change in my parents' relationship. Their relationship has been broken for a long time, and I knew that I had gained the tools to go home and save their relationship. So I went home that summer, and what I thought was going to be a huge success was an utter failure. I went through the summer every single day watching them fight, complaining to God, and cursing Him sometimes of, why can't this be different? God, why am I in this situation? Why don't you just save them? Why can't I have parents that have a successful relationship? In addition to that, I got to watch my Instagram feed of people working at churches, people making a lot of money, people working at Christian camps. And I'm like, why can't I be there? Why am I here? And I never learned to just be grateful for my situation and for other people's situations. So I came out of that summer broken, had a terrible semester, ended up going to counseling, and through that year of counseling, I have finally gotten to a point where I've worked enough on my prayer life with God that I've been able to recognize all the blessings in my life. I'm so thankful for my situation. I rejoice in my friends' situations. And it's just so much more relaxing. I don't end the day exhausted. And through that hard work, I'm still not perfect. I haven't found that great rhythm. And so I encourage you just to keep working hard, to keep being thankful for your life and for others' lives. And because of God's unending grace, because He is relentless to save me and to forgive me, that's why I worship.
Hello friends, and welcome to The Well. Tonight we are coming to you live from the GVSU Marketplace because the story we're going to look at tonight from Jesus comes from Matthew chapter 20, and it takes place in an ancient marketplace in Israel. But before we dive into that, I want to talk with you guys about a universal truth that I was reminded of last week for Halloween. A young kid in a cute costume will get between 2 and 10 times as much candy per house as an older kid in the exact same costume. Now, you could be an older kid running from house to house trying to get as much candy.
Trick or treat!
You know, Halloween was last week, right?
Yes, but I just love to keep the Halloween spirit alive all year.
Sure. Great. You know, what do you know? It's a college campus. Anything can happen.
Thank you
Great.
so
Have
much.
a good night.
You too!
Weird kid. Anyway, you could be an older kid and get some candy running from house to house, but a younger kid who just meanders back and forth, they're going slowly from house to house. Hi.
Trick or tweet.
Where are your parents? You're adorable. You know what? Here, open your bag. There you go. Hang on, keep it open. You know what? I got plenty of candy right here. I was only going to use it for a prop, but you look like you could use a whole bunch of candy. There you go. Have a great night.
Thank you!
You're welcome. Cute kid. Anyway, and forget about it if you're an older kid, right? If you're an older kid walking around trying to trick or treat. Trick or treat. Seriously? Here. Here's a mystery Dum Dum Pop. Enjoy.
Life is so unfair.
What a weird night. Anyway, let's get into the story. Now, all joking aside, right? It's funny when we watch this happen in little kids, but it's a lot uglier when we see this kind of behavior in adults. Why is that? Why do I get mad when someone else succeeds? Or I feel slighted because someone else has experienced and received a gift? Jesus gets at the heart of this issue in Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 through 16, the story we're going to look at today as we continue our journey on earth as it is in heaven. Last week, Cody looked at a parable about a father and his 2 sons, and it was focusing in on the religious community not wanting to include these people who they saw as unworthy into the community of Jesus. That same theme is picked up again in this parable, but in this particular one, Jesus' focus is on His disciples and on the question, how do you respond to the generosity of God? So let's look at the parable together. This is what it says, Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 through 16. For the kingdom of heaven is like a vineyard owner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay them the standard wage for the day and sent them into his vineyard. About 9 in the morning, he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. He told them, "You also go work in my vineyard and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. He went out again about noon and at 3 in the afternoon and did the same thing. Again, at 5 in the afternoon, he went out and found still others standing around, and he asked them, "Why have you been standing here all day long without any work?" "Because no one has hired us," they answered. And he said to them, "You also go, work in my vineyard." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to the foreman, "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first." The workers who were hired about 5 p.m. came, and each received a full day's wage. So when those who were hired first came, they expected to receive more. But each one of them also received the standard wage. When they received it, they began to grumble against the vineyard owner. "These who were hired last worked only 1 hour," they said, "and you've made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the work in the heat of the day." But he answered, "I am not being unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for the standard wage? So take what belongs to you and do as you wish. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with what belongs to me? Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first, and the first last." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Let's begin by looking at these men who were gathered in the marketplace. If you were one of these men, you would have gotten up before dawn so that you could be at the marketplace when the hiring starts at 6 a.m. So that you'd be the first one in line to be hired. And when vineyard owners of various kinds start to show up, you want them to see you as worth hiring for the day, because for you, this is the only means you have to provide for you and your family for that day. And so when the vineyard owner comes and he selects you, you are so excited. You are going to work hard today, but you are going to have what you need to provide for yourself and your family. But if you aren't hired first, the day is not looking good for you. The chances of them coming back later to hire go way down, and so does the wage. And so it would have been a pleasant surprise to see this vineyard owner coming back at 9 a.m. to hire another group, and you stand out there and say, maybe this time it'll be me, maybe this time I'll be worth being hired. But nope, another group goes. It happens again at noon. It happens again at 3. And here it is at the end of the day. And all these other people have been hired and they have worked and they are going to have an income for the day, but not you. No, you are worth less than all the other ones. And I wonder if you ever feel that way. That you are worth less than the people around you. Worth less than the ones who get into the program that you wanted to get into. Worth less than the person who got the internship that you really wanted. Worth less than the people who always seem to be doing fun things on Friday nights on Instagram and going out with friends and doing great things, but you're at home alone. Worth less than people who seem to have this deep experience with God, but for you, God seems to be really far away. You feel worth less than others. I'm sure that's what these men sitting in the marketplace at 5 p.m. must have been feeling when a surprising thing happened. The vineyard owner came back again at the very end of the day, and he looks at them and he asks them this question: why are you still here? Why have you been here all day and not working? Well, because no one's hired us. Then go to my vineyard and work. What a great news that would have been. You are going to have something today. You are going to be able to eat. You are going to be able to bring something home to your family to show for a day's work. It won't be a full day's wage, but at least it's something. So they go and they work as much as they can. Maybe if you see me working a little bit harder, something good will happen. And the end of the day comes and the foreman lines them up for their pay. And these men who were last to be hired get paid first. And it's a full day's wage. I'm sure they couldn't believe it. They must have thought it was a mistake. The order got switched around. Somebody's confused here. But then they watch as everybody else got paid a full day's wage, all the way down to the ones who had been hired at 6 a.m. Can you imagine how grateful these men would have been at experiencing the generosity of the vineyard owner? They thought that they were worth less than all these other people, but the vineyard owner treated them as if they were worth much, just as much as everybody else who'd worked that day. Can you imagine them running back to the marketplace with their full day's wage to try to buy some food before everything shut down for the night? To buy food for their family, and the people in the marketplace are seeing them saying, "How did you get this money?" The vineyard owner. He paid me a full day's wage. Can you imagine the story? And then they go home that night and they have this money for their family and they say, "Wow, you don't look nearly as dirty as you usually do." You won't believe what happened. The vineyard owner, he paid me a full day's wage even though I was only there for an hour. The response of those who had received the incredible generosity of the vineyard owner would have been overwhelming gratitude for what they had received, far more than anything they could have expected. And there's good news in this for those of you, friends, that feel worth less, who have felt what it's like to be looked over, who have not gotten the internships, who have sat alone at home on Friday nights, who have felt really distant from God. There's good news here because this story tells us that the vineyard owner, God, has not forgotten about you. He sees you. And to Him, you are worth much. Just as much as anybody else. Isn't that good news? And I wish the story would stop there because it's so good. But Jesus has a point He's making. So it doesn't stop at verse 10 when those who are last get treated as those who were first. No, there's another group here. A group who sees the generosity of the vineyard owner toward these others that they thought were worth less. And their response, instead of gratitude, is greed. How could you treat those people who only worked for 1 hour equal to us, who have been working here all day long in the heat of the day, grumbling against the vineyard owner, even though they had received exactly what they were promised? And friends, if I'm being really honest, there is way too much about their response that sounds really familiar to me, to my soul, to how I respond when I think about other people receiving the generosity of God when I feel overlooked. A greedy response. A response that instead of being grateful for what somebody else has been given and rejoicing with them, I get angry. I want it. How come I got overlooked? How come I don't get that? A greedy response. And Jesus tells this parable to His disciples because He is forcing on them a really challenging question. What is your response to the generosity of God? Is your response a greedy response. How come they're getting more than me? How come I don't have those things? How come I didn't get the internship? How come I didn't get in the program? How come I don't have all those friends? How come me? See, when our response to the generosity of God is a greedy response, it betrays a way of seeing and experiencing God that is based on what I think I'm worth, based on what I think I can do for God. And if God's going to be generous to me, it's only because I have proven myself to God. When our response to God is greedy, it's because we see God much more like a businessman who is stingy with his resources. Oh, but thanks be to God. That is not the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ that He shows to us. He is a generous God, an overly abundantly generous Father who quite literally has moved heaven and earth in order to make room in His vineyard for those He sees and is called. A grateful response to the generosity of God means sees everything I have as a gift. A grateful response comes from knowing that my worth is not what I can prove to or do for God, but because God sees me as worth much. What Christ has accomplished for me is what makes me worthy of God's generosity. It's all a gift given to us by a lavishly generous God. So what is your response to the generosity of God? Jesus asked His disciples. Just for fun, here's a little equation for all of my math friends out here that I'm pretty sure works every time. If you take the generosity of God as a constant in this formula, and you take the generosity of God and you multiply that by my grateful response, the result is joy. It works every time. But if you take the generosity of God and instead of multiplying it, you divide it by my greedy response, the result is jealousy. That also works every time. So when you look at your life, which one of these equations is operational right now? Are you multiplying God's generosity by responding with gratitude and experiencing His joy? Or are you dividing God's generosity and responding and experiencing it as jealousy? Friends, Jesus tells this story because He wants to force this question on His disciples. What is your response to the generosity of God? What do you say?
Man, I want to say thanks to Scott for the message that he gave us. I love Scott's intensity and I love his direction, and I hope that you guys do as well. Here's a few questions for you guys to consider in your watch parties tonight.
Gratitude is a spiritual discipline. It's something you can practice. One way to practice is take time to remember ways you have experienced God's generosity each day. In what ways have you experienced God's generosity today? Second question is, the other thing you can do is tell people in your life how they have been a gift from God in your life. Write a card today to say thank you to people who have been a gift to you. We've got thank you cards for you and your watch party. And practice giving thanks to God for His generosity in your life. You could send them to professors or for teaching assistants or to janitorial staff, to faculty, to RAs, bosses, anybody you can think of who has made a difference in your life. Just express some gratitude.
Thanks for being at the well tonight. I hope that some of the stuff that we were able to talk about and able to listen to made a difference for you. This is an opportunity for you to go even deeper by going to the podcast with Julia, which is called Digging Deeper. And it gives you an opportunity to dig in this stuff just a little bit more, just a little bit more, and it's awesome. Now with that, let's go to Julia and the doxology.
Praise God from